good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to our panel discussion on the Hong Konger. Today, we'll explore the life and the legacy of Jimmy Lai, a Hong Kong businessman and founder of Apple Daily. Lai is currently imprisoned for his bold stand in support of democracy and free speech. His story challenges us to think deeply about freedom, courage, and global importance of protecting democratic values. The purpose of our panel is to reflect on these themes and consider what Lai's fight means not only for Hong Kong, but for all of us who value liberty and justice. So, help me introduce our panelists. Panelists, go ahead.
How you guys doing? My name is Edgar Roach. Proud and glad to be here for this discussion and topic.
All right, my name's Kalina Apana. I'm glad to be part of this group. Nice to meet everyone.
Hello, my name is Chad Paskins. I'm glad to be a part of this Hong Konger discussion. We're going to have a great time.
And my name is Grace Hanish, and I will be your host and moderator today. Together, we will dive into the key ideas and questions raised by the Hong Konger and exploring how Jimmy Lai's stand for democracy inspires action in our own lives. Let's get to it. So, first question is, what aspects of Jimmy Lai's early life shaped his understanding of freedom and resilience?
I think it was a great question, and I think it was the early roots. I think that poverty, lack kind of shaped his worldview, shaped the way he fought life. And when I watched the story, that's exactly what I took from it. He was a fighter. From being early youth and moving into China and moving from China into Hong Kong, working in a factory, he had a zest and a zeal, and he even attacked that. Sure, it was long hours, it was hard work, but where most saw problems, he saw opportunity.
Mm.
And he turned that opportunity into an empire before going into the political scene. But I think it was the humble beginnings, the hardship that shaped his worldview and gave him a hunger to fight for people.
Yeah, that's so good, Edgar. Thank you so much.
I agree. I agree with that. I pretty much what I got from it is that he did from his early life, he played a crucial role in shaping his understanding of freedom and then resilience. And then from his escape from the communists of China, he exposed him from like harsh realities. Um, and just like personal liberty. Growing up, he did face like significant hardship and child labor also, which taught him the importance of like perseverance and hard work from a very young age. And then, yeah, despite his challenges, he showed
Mhm.
like remarkable determination, by teaching himself English and then pursuing self-education. Which empowered him to break barriers and seize new opportunities. So,
Definitely,
Awesome. That's
definitely.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of seen the same thing that you guys did, but I really was intrigued on how his life started, how his family was in power.
Mm.
He was in a rich family, and it was all stripped from him. And then he had to go, of course, and escape from China and go to Hong Kong. And it just kind of like really showed me how you can have resilience so much that where you can start off at the top, be to the bottom, and work your way right back up.
Come
Mm.
And
on.
even with that being said, he took something so common and made it such a great thing. The thing that really
Yeah.
got me was how he took something that we call normal and made it a franchise back home, which caused him to not only do that but make his business, which was Apple, the Apple News. And even with that, he just was so resilient that put, to me, he put others before himself. And he was just amazing. I never heard of him, and it was amazing to me, the story. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you, Chad. I watched the show, the documentary, I want to say 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 Fridays ago. The moment we got it, I got home from work, sat down and watched it. And I just wondered how I never heard of this guy, how much of an impact he made. And what you just said, Chad, was great. Starting from nothing, essentially building it from scratch, along with you, Lena, what you said is learning English. Being in a new country, a new place, not knowing anybody, and you're a child, and creating the life that you dreamed of is powerful, and it just speaks to the testament of who he is.
Question number two. How did Lai use his business success to promote democracy and freedom in Hong Kong?
I can go. I mean, anybody want
Well,
to
I'll go.
go?
I'll go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To me, he basically took what he made. The thing that stood out to me was that he first made millions of dollars off the stock market.
Mm,
And then he turned it around and made it a business. From making it a business, he said he took it and created the Apple News. And it was amazing to me that even though how rich he was, he didn't care about the rich being rich. He wanted to make sure people were, had a voice. And he took it. And even the part that really got me was when he told his wife that this is my dream. This is what I live for. And she had to understand in marrying him that there were sacrifices. And she sacrificed along with him. And he just took it to another level.
yeah.
Some of the people on the documentary, when things were going wrong, they fled the country. He stayed.
Yeah.
That stood out to me. He stayed. He said, I don't care what they do to me, but I'm going to stay in this thing. Kind of remind me of our Savior. He
Yeah.
stayed, you know.
Mm, yeah.
It's
Took a
good.
stand
Yep.
and he
Yep.
stayed through the
Yeah.
trials and he persevered. Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. Such a powerful point.
Lai didn't shy away from, controversy. He used his platform to openly criticize the Chinese government for sure. And he took accountability and exposed the authoritarian actions. And despite like all the risks, Lai took major personal and financial risks to protect his mission and, demonstrating his unwavering commitment to promoting democracy even in the face of the intimidation.
Hmm.
I love that. I love how God works. He uses everything. He takes Lai, who grew up in an oppressive China, who understood what extreme poverty felt like, restriction and not having, and he moves him to a democracy in Hong Kong where he didn't see the hardship of working in a factory as a child. He saw opportunity. He saw the opportunity to work long hours, to learn a new skill, to learn a new language, to start to invest the little that he had in the stock market and played a long game. After the stock market, launching a clothing brand, planning stores across multiple countries and achieving wild success, and then moving right on into Apple Daily, which gave him a transition into journalism, which took that very hard, cold reality of the oppression of China and bring it into the diplomacy of Hong Kong. And now he had not only the means, but a voice, a platform that he could help others to understand what freedom meant and how to express themselves, and that you don't have to just lay down and take it, that you do have a voice and your voice should be heard. It's an inspirational story, and I think that we've seen it not just in Hong Kong, in America, in Japan, all over the world, in many different instances, in many different purposes. But it's men like that who allow us to fight, who gives us the courage to say the things that maybe many want to, but won't. And you see a lot of that in Hong Kong, I believe, still today while I was in jail. There are many who want to fight against the oppressive regime, but maybe are fearful or don't have the courage that Jimmy had or don't have the resources that he had. But either way, he still made it a point to fight for the least of them.
Yeah, that is so true. And I think that naturally leads us into one of Lai's biggest and most influential ventures. We've been mentioning it, Apple Daily, right?
Mhm.
Next, we'll focus on his media side. What role did Apple Daily actually play in Hong Kong's democratic movement?
I think it played a huge role
Mhm.
as the transition of power went from Britain into China. I think most people, if they didn't say it, at least in the back of their mind, was is China really going to allow this to stay a democracy, or at some point will they make it an authoritarian state where the Chinese law will reign supreme? And I think Apple Daily gave people a voice, or at least it gave them courage. And as
Yeah.
Jimmy
Yeah.
transitioned from the clothing company, which China did try to silence and take away from him, he said, you know what, I'm willing to give this away. I think when people see that type of boldness, when they see that type of action, it can't help but to galvanize the troops as they march through the streets. Some nights it was three, some nights it was 3,000. And Apple Daily also served as a platform to gather the masses. It was a publication that went out all across Hong Kong. So everybody was getting the same message at the same time every day. And it allowed everybody to stay in tune with the movement and what was going on. I think that's why China wanted so desperately to break up that company, to break up that platform, because if you can cut the head off of the snake, then
You got
everything
the
else
whole
will
thing.
fall.
Yeah.
And essentially that's kind of what happened as
Yeah.
China attacked Apple Daily and Mr. Lai and just the movement to fight for independence and freedom. I'll end with this quote, and I thought that it was perfectly fitting for this scenario as we talk about this documentary. Dr. Martin Luther King wrote a letter from Birmingham jail, and his quote was, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." While it may seem like this is isolated to Hong Kong, we hear echoes and rumors of things happening here in our own country. We see echoes and rumors of other places going through similar situations, and it's not isolated to one place. I love that Dr. King says injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's all of us.
Yeah.
And he really stands up for that justice and he gives people a voice.
You said something, and what got me was when they locked him up and they closed down his business, the people were waiting for the last paper. This
Yeah.
how big this company was. Everybody
Come
was
on.
waiting. They
Come on.
stayed and did the press so they get that last paper out. And you said something else that struck me was, it's injustice everywhere. It's not just over in Hong Kong, because if we really think about what's going on now today in our society in America, our voice is trying to be shut down. Jimmy Fallon was a big
Yeah.
example of that. The rights, it's a right, it's one of our in our declaration. You can't shut that down. And they tried to shut him up because of the fact that he was speaking his mind. And
Yeah.
it's a publication, you can't shut him down. And thankfully that we follow our declaration, our rules and regulations, because he was able to get back on. But he really was a big part of giving people that didn't have a voice a voice. And
Yeah.
that really stood out to me. That what really stood out to me was that even though he had the business, he had the wealth, he had all those things, this man didn't think of himself as that way. He went out with the people and marched. He
Yeah.
made himself
Yeah.
available. He was
That's
part
good.
of all of the marches, and people knew him one-on-one basis. Even when it came down to the umbrella thing, the march and the umbrella, he was out there. It was amazing to me that he didn't shy away, just give the money and shy away with his voice, but he made his voice, his presence, and everything felt.
Obviously, it played a crucial role in Hong Kong's democratic movement. It served as a strong voice for the pro-democracy movement. I said that it was known for its like independent, uncensored reporting. It provided like truthful coverage in a media landscape. And yeah, the newspaper was just very instrumental in mobilizing public opinion, I think. And then yeah, Apple Daily just became a really powerful symbol of press freedom.
Those are amazing insights on the media's impact and to understand the bigger picture. We should also look at key historical moments that shaped both Lai and Hong Kong itself. So, how did the Tiananmen Square massacre and later protests like the Umbrella Movement, 2019 demonstrations affect Lai and Hong Kong's identity?
Okay. Yeah. So I pretty much said that the Tiananmen Square massacre was a defining moment for Jimmy Lai in Hong Kong. As a whole, it deeply shaped their views on freedom and resistance against authoritarianism. The massacre's brutal crackdown just left a lasting legacy in Hong Kong, feeling a strong commitment to democratic values and human rights. And then this legacy later um, inspired later movements like the Umbrella Movement, which where the protesters demanded greater political freedom and autonomy. Together, these events have profoundly influenced Hong Kong's identity, forging a collective spirit of resilience and steadfast determination to protect the city's unique freedoms in the face of growing pressure from China.
See, mine's is a little bit more simple. I just feel like it lit a match under them when they did the massacre. I feel like it made the people realize how important this was, and it made them fight harder because if you notice in that video, they started to fight back. First, they were just running, and then they said, "No, no, you're not gonna just do what you're gonna do to us, and we're just gonna walk away." They started to fight back, and I think it encouraged more people to join into the presence of the people because they were like, we're all for one. Let's do this
Hmm.
together. And that's basically how I looked at it. I think it just encouraged not only Jimmy Lee, but it encouraged the people that worked with him as well as the people who weren't part of the movement. They got part. They
Yeah,
became part of it.
yeah,
Okay.
I definitely agree with both of you, Kalina and Chad. I'll even just go a step further. I pray that as this documentary has, traveled around the world by now in different universities, institutions, organizations, that conversations like this reignite the flame of the people of Hong Kong, the people of America, the people in the world, because it is the people who truly pay the price when
hmm
you see corrupt governments and authoritarians and totalitarian and people who just want to oppress others for their gain or so that they can have power or control. And I really pray that we as the people stand up all across the world. The people of Hong Kong stand up. It was sad to see how the documentary ended, where the people kind of accepted the position that they were in.
Yeah,
While you saw the fight, you saw the uprising, you saw the political campaigns through Apple Daily, you saw the fall of the company, and you seen the arrest of Mr. Lai and so many of his other colleagues who were not fighting against the government. They were fighting for their freedom, their right to have democracy, their right to have a voice, their right to make choices on their own and not be censored and not be told how to live, what you can do, when you can do it. Truly, he was fighting a just cause. And I pray that that echoes across the world and across the corridors for all to hear, to see that there are still people out there who are willing to risk it all. Chad, like you said, this brother he was rich. He was at the top of his game. He was the 1% of the 1%. He had everything. He had a loving family. He had Christ in his life. There
yeah.
was no need other than what the Lord put
Live
in
his
his
life.
spirit to fight for justice. And we
yeah,
serve a God of justice. And I believe that
yeah,
God did and is still using him to speak. And as he prepares to get released from prison, I pray that the
yeah.
people remember the cause, remember what they're fighting for, and that it is a worthy and just cause because we all deserve to be free.
Yeah.
Mm,
Edgar,
love that.
I feel like God has certain people that he makes for those roles. Just like you mentioned,
Hmm.
Dr. Martin Luther King. Everybody can't do that.
Yeah.
It's got to be a special person that God has called to be able
Hmm.
to stand up in that role and take all the hits and keep on
Yeah.
pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those events set the stage for the current political climate. And turning to the present challenges, what are the implication of China's national security law on Hong Kong's freedoms?
I think that the national security law silences the people. It truly makes it a dictatorship. It takes away the voice. It takes away the ability to have free speech. It censors the people to agree with the message that mainland China wants to put out. It violates the treaty that they had in allowing Hong Kong to stay and remain a diplomatic a state. And I think that it's just unfair to the people. And while I say that, I do want to highlight that being from the West, born and raised in the US, we value our democracy, and I believe rightfully so. But there are other places in the world that do live different, that have different laws. And to them, maybe some of the people who live in these places, they view it differently than what I do. So I always try to leave room for the other side to have an argument or at least to have a say. But from the outside looking in, coming from a democracy here in the US, I believe that the people of Hong Kong are being oppressed, that their voices are being silenced. And I believe ultimately the people are paying the price for mainland China coming in and creating a dictatorship.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, so what I think about this question, is the law has severely impacted press freedoms, what I think, resulting in, the shutdown of independent media outlets like Apple Daily and increased censorship as well. So internationally, this move has sparked widespread criticism and also strained relations with many countries concerned about, yeah, human rights violations, that's what you said. Um, but in the long term, I think the law threatens to fundamentally change Hong Kong society
Yeah.
by instilling fear, limiting free expressions, and even undermining the city's unique identity.
Mm,
Yeah. And I think I summed that up just basically fear and control. They're basically putting the fear in these people, and to the point that you see even the people who left Hong Kong, they're scared to come back.
mm,
They won't come back because they're like they're gonna put
Yeah.
us in jail or. So I feel like they're really spreading fear and control at the same.
Yeah.
To wrap up our discussion, let's connect it globally and let's consider the wider lessons here. Why is Jimmy Lai's story important for the global fight for democracy, and what can we take away from it today?
I feel like globally it's important because we don't want it to uh, basically it gives us an outline of what can happen when someone gets too much power. And we may not see it, but the United States, our current president, is kind of trying to do the same thing. He's trying to take control and everything be in his hands, and he has all the power, all the say. Because the one thing that I will say, I notice how China moved, even when it shifted after the 50 years. They moved in such a swift way that they were able to take full control. And the same thing with globally. Um, if we don't be careful, we'll have several dictators around the world that will basically tell us what we can and can't do. There will be no more laws.
I think his story is important for globally, because, he stands just as a powerful symbol of courage and conviction in the face of oppression, which is really hard. I mean, he like shows that other
Yeah.
people can do it. His example just serves as an inspiration for activists worldwide, and it just reminds us all of the importance of, standing up for freedom and like even under the most difficult circumstances, that is what he did. So,
I agree with both of you guys. I think that when we fail to learn the lessons of the past, we're doomed to repeat it in the future. And if we don't learn from Hong Kong's experience and from other places, we are doomed to repeat that in our future. And I think that the people are brighter. We are more aware. We are more in tuned. And I pray that we realize globally as one world, as one people, that power does not corrupt, absolute power does. And I just want to remind
Mhm.
us and the people that we have the power collectively. The people of Hong Kong, don't forget the fight of Mr. Lau and so many of his colleagues that fled. Some are still in prison with him. We have people right here in the States and brothers and sisters all around the world who are still fighting the good fight. And we need to see that there are people out there who are still ready to lay their life down for the gospel, for freedom, for justice, and collectively, we can move mountains. And I pray that we follow in the paths of many of these great men and women who have given their lives, or in some cases given their freedom, to show that we can come together and create and affect change, not just for ourselves, but for our children. I know, Chad, me and you were talking. We have children as old as Grace and Colina, and the future is truly theirs. And I think that for our generation, the question is, what type of future, what type of legacy are we going to leave behind for them? Because we're coming to the ends of our races, and they're going to pick up that baton. And it's brothers like Mr. Lau, Dr. King, and countless others who create that legacy, who creates the outlet and the courage for those to go out and to raise their voice and to gather and collect and make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
It's good.
the greatest power is power that's under control.
Come on,
Mm.
come on, fire.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so
yeah.
good. Thank you, all of you guys, to each of our panelists, to Edgar and Kalena and Chad, for sharing your thoughtful insights today. And thank you to everyone here for taking the time to listen and engage in this important conversation. As we've heard throughout our discussion, Jimmy Lai's courage and Hong Kong's ongoing struggle for democracy reminds us that freedom is precious and can never be guaranteed. His willingness to risk everything for the sake of truth and liberty is a call to action for all of us, wherever we live, and to stay informed and stand for justice. Though Jimmy Lai remains imprisoned today, his voice remains as a part of the movement he started, and he represents those who are not silenced. Freedom can be delayed, but it cannot be destroyed. Amen. The
Mm.
hope is for a free Hong Kong and a democracy around the world lives on through the people who continue to speak out and advocate. Let's carry that hope with us. Let's stay aware, share Lai's story, and support the efforts to uphold human rights and freedom everywhere. So once again, thank you guys, all of our panelists, to each of you and the audience for being part of this discussion. And together, let's continue to value and protect our gift of freedom. You've been
Amen.
listening to the pod.
Right.
Awesome, awesome. I love it.